Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Sports Talk with Austin or Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports, whichever channel you may be enjoying on this fine, beautiful Thursday night, evening, morning, depending on where you are in the part of the world. We're glad you're here, and we're glad that you're here watching us. You could be anywhere in the world, and you're here watching us. But I could not do this without my partner in crime, Jeffrey. How are you on this beautiful Thursday? And are you excited to talk about our topic today?
Oh, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm glad you came up with a suggestion, Austin, and I'm doing great. It's going to be a lot of fun. And like Austin said, appreciate you for being here, tuning in tonight. Like he said, anywhere else you could be watching, anybody else you could be watching, but you are here. And I really appreciate it. Austin appreciates it as well. But tonight we're going to be talking about the NFL schedule and particularly the primetime games. The primetime games, what we're going to be focusing on. A lot of people love those type of games and can't wait to get into it.
Jeffrey, are we talking about the prime time? Are we talking about Deion Sanders? I love talking Deion Sanders, Jeffrey. Don't make me. Jeffrey, I prepared a song for this. And I think you know how it goes. It's prime time, something, time to grind. Is that the prime time we're talking about? I came prepared.
He did play in the NFL, but no, we're not talking about prime time because he's currently coaching Colorado football, trying to get the Buffaloes to be a good team this year. We're talking about the NFL where he used to play. He's just not currently in right now. So no prime time Deion Sanders.
Oh, man, you got my hopes up. Well, I guess I have to settle for this then. Got my hopes up, Jeffrey. I'm so disappointed. I think it is too, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope the audience will as well. There's a lot of great primetime games this year. There's always a few duds in there, as we all know. So there will be a few that we think are going to be good on paper. Then when the actual game is played, we're like, oh, yikes. But this game on screen right here, it's going to kick off the NFL season, and it is the reigning defending champions Kansas City Chiefs battling the Baltimore Ravens on the opening Thursday Night Football, 8:20 on NBC. This is going to be a fantastic game. I'm looking forward to it. But Jeffrey, what's your thoughts on this game?
Like you said, not all the primetime games are going to be winners, but this is a game that should be fantastic. And they always usually open up with a great game. And that's how you get people's attention back into the sport. Like I've said before with college football, when you have all those fantastic week 1 matchups, I'm like, well, they should have those in like week 3, week 4 to let the teams kind of get some warm-up games and then they be ready for those big games. But we know why they do them in week 1 because they want people's attention to get back into the sport. I don't blame them. But in NFL, I mean, these guys, they have all of the preseason. They get to warm up all of those, preseason games that don't count. So I think when you have these week 1 games, they're way more ready than they would be in college football. But the thing is with this game is it's at Arrowhead. That automatically, it's going to make it very, very tough for the Baltimore Ravens. But it doesn't mean the Baltimore Ravens can't win because of the fact Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's an elite player. When he's healthy, we saw what Baltimore was capable of this past season because he was healthy. And I thought they were going to make a far run in the playoffs, and then they fell short. They fell apart. I mean, those interceptions, it was just so tough. And the one that he threw in the end zone, Lamar Jackson, that one I felt that it was pass interference. I really did, but they didn't call it, but still they had the interception there. But the Baltimore Ravens are a really good team. They've done a lot to, get more talent around Lamar Jackson, have it where he's not running as frequently so he can stay healthy, which I think is really smart. It's going to be very tough, like I said, in that environment, but it should be a great game.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I'm on board with you. And Jeffrey, I always say this to people. The opening night game we saw is not always an indicator of what a team is going to be. So I don't want people to walk away from this game. I want to make sure this is very important, that people don't walk away from this game, win, lose, or draw for Baltimore or Kansas City, to think either of these teams are going to be great, good, or bad just off the first game. Because we know Look at the Patriots, for example, when they used to win a lot of Super Bowls and they would have these opening night drop the banner games and they would come out with a dud sometimes. And people were like, the Patriots dynasty is over. It's dead. It's gone. Brady and Belichick, yada, yada, yada. And then what happens? They go back to the Super Bowl. So this is not an indicative of either team. But this is going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to seeing how good this Kansas City defense is going to be after the fabulous year they had last year. Because now Baltimore has got Derrick Henry. And Kansas City's run defense has always been one of the best in the league. Even when their pass defense with the Honey Badger Company was not very good, let's be honest. But their run defense always seemed to show up. I'm curious to see how the run defense plays for the Chiefs. And we're getting Lamar versus Mahomes the first game of the year. It's going to be exciting. And just to let our audience know, we're not picking winners. We're not doing any of that. We're not going to give you a way too early prediction because it's kind of early to do that. We might give our predictions in August. But right now, we're just kind of talking about the games and getting back into the flow. But this is going to be a fun way to open up the Thursday night slate. Now, on to the Prime Video games, Amazon Prime, where Thursday Night Football is currently being held. And
if you don't have Amazon, then you can't watch. I mean, there's nothing you can do.
Sorry about your luck. It's just one of those. And immediately, what pops off the page to me, Jeffrey, is the Bills-Dolphins Week 2 in Miami. What a classic game they delivered to us last year. And that was a Sunday night game in Miami. I'm looking forward to this. Back-to-back weeks, we get two really good Thursday night games. Jeffrey, I know you got a thought on this game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think when you look at the fact that Josh Allen, people are starting to sour on him somewhat because of the fact that he hasn't been able to go on that deep run. He hasn't really been able to take the Bills all the way like to a Super Bowl or anything like that. He keeps falling short consistently in the playoffs. And even in the regular season, there's been tons of games that the Bills have lost that fans and just like anybody in general, even if you're not a Bills fan, just felt that the Bills should have won. And they just don't get it done a lot of the time. And I feel like this is a game that it would be a statement win for Josh Allen and the Bills, especially being on the road, because they open up the season with Arizona, which, again, not making any predictions like you said, but you got to win that game, right? So if you get that by that game, if you could start out 2-0 and knock off the Dolphins on the road, that would be massive for the Bills. And it doesn't necessarily mean that things are changed and that this is going to be their year, that they actually have a lot more success than they have had. But because like you said, you don't really know based off the first couple weeks, especially week 1, but even week 2, you need more, evidence. You need to get like to week 7 or 8 or 9 to really know how good or bad these teams are. But the Bills, they should be a good team this year. I mean, they've been solid the past few years, but they just haven't been good enough for what fans and a lot of people, are expecting from Josh Allen. And I think in this game, it is more important for the Bills than the Dolphins. It's going to help the Dolphins being at home. Tua, he's healthy now, which is huge. Had a good season last year. There were moments where he made bad throws. I mean, there were moments where people criticized, like, what in the world? Like, he would throw, 10 great passes in a row, and then he would just have one that was just like, you're just scratching your head. You have absolutely no idea. It makes no sense. But I think the Dolphins more likely will be favored in this game. If they win, people will, be like, wow, great start for the Dolphins, great start for Tua. But I think it's a more important game for the Bills.
Now, you brought up a couple great points, Jeffrey. Talking about the Dolphins, I know you talk about Josh Allen and people souring on him, which they have every right to, because every time they play Kansas City, there's just something about him against Mahomes that he cannot win. But let's talk about Tua for just a second. A lot of people were beginning to question, is he really the future of Miami? Because he couldn't stay healthy, and there for a while he was really struggling. But now that he's got this plethora of weapons with Tyreek Hill and Waddle and their offense and Mike McDaniels being almost a nuanced play caller, helping the Dolphins out, I think, and I'll be the first to admit, I was like on the Tua train. I was like Tua could stay healthy. Look what he did at Alabama. He won the Natty for him. I mean, every Alabama fan remembers that. I think he could do that in the NFL, but he's got to stay healthy, and you got to give him time. And he had a great year last year. And now he's going to be playing for a contract extension. And I hope he gets it because he's a really good player when he's healthy. But that's going to be the key. And the Dolphins, look at the great additions they added. And their running back duo of Mostert and who's their backup? I'm blanking.
Man, I'm trying to think. Mostert's really good. He is so fast.
The Dolphins running back duo is really good. The Dolphins have all the weapons to be an AFC championship game contender. They could even go to the Super Bowl. But they got to get it together. They can't collapse down the stretch like they did before.
They have Devon.
Yeah, Devon Achane. He's really good. He's one of those guys, if you don't get him in the backfield, good luck getting him. But the Dolphins, I would almost say, Jeffrey, this is almost a must-win game for the Dolphins this early in the year because the Dolphins really struggle with winning the division. You saw last year how many games they were ahead of the Bills, and they still lost it. This is almost a must-win game. But then you look for Buffalo's side, that you could look at it that way too because is Josh Allen going to get them to the Super Bowl? This is a big-time game. I'm looking forward to it. Both have got a lot to prove. I think it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. And I think when you mentioned Tua as well, I'm just so happy that he is injury-free because I was high on him out of college like you. I thought he was going to do really well. Like, he's just going to sling it all over the place, and which he has. But those injuries, I mean, some people thought he wasn't coming back, and that was scary. But the season he had last year, despite some of the inconsistencies, it was definitely a success. And Miami fans are pumped, and they have high expectations for this season. I mean, in week 1, they start out with Jacksonville, so that's not an easy game either. So you don't want to start out 0-2. So just if they lost that game, this one would be a must-win. If they beat Jacksonville, this one isn't a must-win to me, but it would be huge if they could start out 2-0 against quality opponents, because then people would be like, man, Miami might be one of the best teams in the NFL and maybe a top 3 team if they can win both those games. But like you said, the Bills too as well really need it. Josh Allen, I mean, he's not getting any younger. He's been in the league longer than some of these, more of the youth more of the younger quarterbacks that have just come into the league. He's been in the league a while, and with the amount of hits he's taken, how long will he be good? How many more years can he, take all the hits and still be good? So I think they got to make a big run soon, and this will be a huge game to prove that they're on the right track. But I can't wait for this one, and what a way to start out the Amazon games on Thursday night. And hopefully you got Amazon so you can watch this one.
Yeah, hopefully so, because this is going to be must-see with network television. But, Jeffrey, do you got any thoughts on the Jets-Patriots game? Do you got any thoughts on that, or do you think this is just going to be now that Aaron Rodgers?
Because of the fact Aaron Rodgers, he has to, not get hurt right in week 1. I mean, last year he gets hurt in week 1 with the Achilles, and he misses the entire season. So it's like, this is week 3, right? I mean, he's got to just make it to week 3. As long as he's playing, the Jets should win, you would think. I mean, they've made some good additions. The team is much better than it used to be all around, but they need Rodgers. He has to not get hurt in the first 2 weeks of the season. So hopefully he's healthy. That's just, we'll have to wait and see on that. If he's still in, on the team, like starting quarterback, he isn't hurt, if he's going to be able to play in this game. But that would be huge for them. That would really help. And then with the Patriots, obviously we know they drafted Drake May, which a lot of people thought that they would. But now that he's been drafted, I've seen a lot of people, you talk about people souring on Josh Allen since he's been in the league. People have soured on Drake May before he even got into the league. I remember when Drake May, he was like the hottest quarterback name. People were just, oh, he's fantastic. He does everything right. Last season, I mean, you saw people like his arm's not strong enough. He's not mobile enough. He makes bad reads. He throws off his back foot too much, all this kind of stuff. So people have kind of been saying Drake May isn't the guy anymore. But the Patriots, they've been awful last couple years. Couldn't figure it out with Mac Jones. Had a bad O-line. Defense wasn't good enough to save him. And it's like now Belichick's gone. he's not here anymore, and you have Mayo's the new coach, and a lot of people feel like he's a sitting duck, that he's just going to get fired in 2 years, that there's no way he's going to be able to turn this thing around. Maybe he will, but a lot of people aren't confident in it, so much so that a lot of people think Bill O'Brien is going to get the job in like 2 or 3 years after he's been at Boston College for a couple seasons in college, if he does well. So we'll have to see with that. But if the Patriots are really bad and Aaron Rodgers is healthy in this game, the Jets should win. But if Rodgers isn't healthy or the Patriots end up being somehow better than expected, it could be an interesting game. But other than that, I mean, it does seem likely the Jets would be favored, but you never know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You kind of echoed all my sentiments. Week 4, we've got my Cowboys going to New York against the Giants. I mean, this is a division rival game. Anything can happen. But we've been beating up on the Giants a lot lately, and I don't expect anything different. I'll say that very, very softly because you never know with division games. Do you got any thoughts on this one, Jeffrey, or you?
This is just don't blow it, Dallas. Just don't blow it. You know, you just got to win these type of games. All I know is Dallas is like the Phoenix Suns or something like that in the NBA right now, or even the Boston Celtics, where people just don't trust them. They got all the talent. They've got all the great players on the team, but they just can't get it done consistently, even in the regular season. I mean, last year, I remember that Arizona Cardinals game. I was just like, are you kidding me? I made my NFL predictions week by week, and I'm like, Dallas is going to beat Arizona by 21 points. And then they lose, and I'm like, what in the world? I mean, why is this happening right now? People are like, great pick, man. You never should pick Dallas. And I'm like, dude, Dallas, they ended up winning like over 10 games. They win games. They just find ways to lose certain games. But to your point, Dallas usually has been handling the Giants lately. I don't think it's going to be any exception, but with Dallas, sometimes you never know.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Just I hope we don't blow it. That's all I'm going to say with that. And then week 5 is going to be really interesting because you're gonna see a revamped Falcons offense with Kirk Cousins. How is he gonna be coming into this game, coming off his torn ACL? And then you got the whole drama of drafting Michael Penix so high in the top 10. A lot of Falcons fans are like, "What are you doing? We don't need a quarterback. We've got Kirk Cousins." And then the owner coming out saying Penix is here for the future because we know Cousins is on the back end. And after they gave him all the money, but then Jeffrey, you flip to the other side of the coin of this game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone wrote them off last year. Tom Brady retires. They release a lot of people and trade, free up cap space, and they balled out, Jeffrey. Baker Mayfield silenced some of his doubters last year and got them all the way to the NFC divisional round. And now here we are, week 5. They're going to be in Atlanta, in the Georgia Dome. I mean, in Mercedes-Benz, not the Georgia Dome. That used to be their old stadium. Mm-hmm. This is going to be, I think, a really good game. This is a sleeper game to kick off the week. Got any thoughts on this one, Jeffrey?
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about Michael Penix being drafted by the Falcons, and I look at it one or two ways. You can look at it that he's insurance, right? Like, what if Kirk Cousins gets hurt again? Or what if he doesn't play well? Then it's a smart draft pick decision because Penix is a guy that is older and he had a ton of success at Indiana and Washington. You know, proved that toward the end of his career, he could stay healthy when given a team that would not have a horrible O-line like Indiana had where he would get hurt every year. But, you know, he stayed healthy at Washington, proved that he could win and have tons of success and stay healthy, which is the most important thing. So if Kirk Cousins fails to stay healthy or just doesn't play well, Penix is there. But then you look at it on the other side, and Kirk Cousins, you know, if he does really well and he's there for 3 or 4 years before, you know, he ages out completely or, you know, he leaves to another team or whatever, Penix is going to be like 28 years old by that time. And a lot of people be like, well, that's kind of old for a guy to, you know, be getting his, you know, first chance to start. It's just a weird scenario. It's weird that they paid Cousins so much money when he could end up backfiring. It could not work. I think Cousins is a solid quarterback. He's been solid for a very long time, but he's older now. and I just don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy. It's interesting. So only time will tell with that. I think they did the right decision to draft Penix, but I get the frustration and confusion. But regardless of all that, if it's Kirk Cousins, he's got more experience than Baker Mayfield. But I will say, to your point, Baker Mayfield did silence a lot of his doubters. What won him the job and the contract extension was advancing out of the wild card. If they just made the playoffs and then they lost, I think there's a shot he got an extension, but he got as big of an extension as he did because they won that game. And people were very impressed with him. He was very impressive. I was not expecting Baker Mayfield to do all that. I mean, I always thought Baker Mayfield was solid. He had the good year at the Browns, but then he got hurt, and people forgot that. People forgot that he was playing through pain, which at the end of the day, it probably would have ended up being better for Baker Mayfield if he didn't play through the pain and he would have gotten, healthy and fixed that shoulder, because when he played through the injury, it made it worse on him, for one, playing through the injury, but two, his performance was awful. And then people seemed to just forget that he was hurt and was like, oh, Baker Mayfield stinks and he's no good anymore. And it's like, well, I mean, he's not healthy. Then with the Panthers, that was a joke because Carolina's O-line was bad, just like Indiana in football and college football. The Panthers just didn't protect him. So he's being protected more with the Bucs. They got more, talent around him. I think this is going to be a tight one either way. I think either team could win this one. The Falcons have the advantage because of the fact that they're at home and, they have the more experienced quarterback now, as long as he's healthy, and Kirk Cousins. But the Bucs were better last year. Baker's playing well. I could see this one going either way. I think it's going to be a good, underrated game, like you said.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then as we scroll on down, you got week 6, the 49ers at Seattle, another divisional game. Those are always ones that flip-flop. And this one's in Seattle. Could be troublesome for the 49ers. Are the 49ers going to have a Super Bowl hangover? We shall see. Jeffrey, you got any thoughts on the 49ers-Seahawks game?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Seattle, that no more Pete Carroll. That's over with. And that's going to be interesting to see because he's been there for so long. It's going to be just like with Belichick. It's just going to be weird not seeing him on the sidelines because you're just used to it. And I really don't know why they got rid of him. I mean, with Belichick, I get it because they were awful, but at the same time, it's like he won all those games for you. It's kind of like the Spurs. They're not getting rid of Popovich. I mean, this could age poorly. They could end up getting, rid of him tomorrow, but they're keeping him. So I think with Belichick, they shouldn't have got rid of him, but it is what it is. But with Pete Carroll, they weren't even awful and they got rid of him. So I don't get it. I thought that was not the best move, but I mean, I get it. Everybody's wanting to, move on, get younger, get these young, minds that know the game the way it's currently being played instead of these older guys that maybe are still kind of coaching like it's 20, 30 years ago. I get that, but weird decision. I think it's going to be a tough game for the 49ers, but this is a game that they need to win if they're going to prove that they're still on that level. If they're still on that championship level and they can possibly be a team that can get back to the Super Bowl. They should have won this past season. That was such a frustrating game. I mean, we've talked about it before, but they should have won. I mean, literally that play where the ball just barely tips the 49ers player and then it gets recovered for the Chiefs. That was just such bad luck. But it is what it is. I mean, they were so close to winning, but at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it. So I think that the 49ers just need to prove that they're still on that level, and they should be able to beat a team that is inferior. It's going to be a tough environment, though, but 49ers need to win this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Jeffrey. I think they need to win this game, and it's going to be a tough environment. Now, as we scroll on down, week 7, you've got the Broncos at the Saints. The Russell Wilson experiment is over. Broncos country is not riding anymore, Jeffrey. They rode off the horse. They broke the poor horse. Mm-hmm. But Bo Nix is the new man in town. Maybe Sean Payton finally found his guy. I don't know. But then as for the New Orleans Saints, Jeffrey, if there is one team that I might have a rant on, it's the Saints. I gush over them all the time. I'm like, this team has every potential to go to the Super Bowl, to win the NFC. They've got all this talent in place. They've got a good head coach in Dennis Allen, and they just let me down. every single time. And I'm like, and it's frustrating too, because they haven't found nobody since Drew Brees. Hopefully Derek Carr can right the ship, but this is frustrating, Jeffrey. I try to hype the Saints up because I really like this team. I really think that they're eventually going to get over that hump, that the curse is going to be over. But it just seems like they're just stuck in mediocrity. But as for this game, though, I think this will be really fun. It's going to be Denver, one of their bigger tests of the year, on a Thursday night solo stage. We're going to see possibly Bo Nix as the starter, or maybe it's Zach Wilson. Maybe it's him. Who knows? But I think this is gonna be an interesting game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, both teams, I don't really think people were really expecting them to be great, but there's potential for both. The Saints, the thing that's aggravated me with the Saints is they're kind of reminiscent recently after Drew Brees has been gone. They've been very reminiscent of Iowa football in the fact that some years their defense is great. It is elite. And then that offense is just, you want to pull your hair out if you're a Saints fan. It's terrible. I mean, like, I remember like one of the Panthers games, either last year or the year before. I can't exactly remember. One of the Panthers games, the score is like 9-6 in the fourth. And the Panthers keep getting opportunity after opportunity because the Saints just keep punting the football. But that defense just stop after stop after stop. And the Saints won the game, but it's like if the Saints just had an offense, they'd actually be good. Because the defense is great. And that's why they were so great when they had Drew Brees. But he's gone, and they have to figure it out. They have to find their guy. And they thought it was Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr. I've always defended Derek Carr because I felt like he was mistreated toward the end at the Raiders. I really do. I mean, people are like, oh, it's all Derek Carr's fault. He's terrible and all that. But it's like their defense was awful. I mean, they were losing games 40-35. It was awful. So I think that, you know, Derek Carr is a solid quarterback, but the issue is he's starting to get that injury bug. He was not available all the time last year. And even when he played, he wasn't healthy half the time. So that's problematic. He's got to be healthy. If he is, and that defense continues to be stellar, the Saints could be the best team in the NFC South. It's not like the competition's all that stiff here. The Panthers stink, and the Bucs and Falcons are just, they're all right. Bucs are a little bit better right now, but it's not like they're ripping up the roads or anything. So the Saints have the potential to be the best team, but got to get that offense right. With the Broncos, they're just a wild card. We have no idea. The Russell Wilson trade was one of the worst of all time. I still can't honestly believe that that trade was awful. I mean, Bryce Young, that trade to get the first pick with the Panthers and giving away all that to the Bears, that was bad. But I still think the Broncos trade was worse. I mean, that was just giving away all that for Russell Wilson, an aging quarterback, and you paid him that much, and now you get rid of him. I mean, like, he was still being paid a lot. He had a lot left on his contract. It's nuts. So they're free of that. I mean, got Sean Payton in town. I think there's going to be growing pains for them. I know Bo Nix is older and he's experienced in college and all that, but a lot of people do point out that at Oregon, I mean, it's not like Oregon was going up against a bunch of great defenses in the Pac-12 last year. And the offensive system, I mean, it was so easy for Bo Nix to be good. Like, if Bo Nix wasn't...
Cover your ears, Oregon fans.
No offense. I'm
Cover
sorry
your
for
ears.
the Oregon fans in chat. I'm just saying Bo Nix had it made in the shade. It was easy peasy for Bo Nix. So I'm just like, will he be able to, now that he's in the NFL, just go out there and be going up against the best, defenses in the world in football? Because the NFL, I mean, these are the best teams out there. I mean, like, it's going to be a wake-up call for Bo Nix. So I think it's going to be growing pains for Denver. I think it's going to be tough to be on the road in this game. The Saints will have that advantage. It should be an interesting game that could be good, but this is definitely a game that the Saints can't lose.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, to your point before we move on, do you remember the year that the Saints won 6-0 over the Buccaneers against Tom Brady with Taysom Hill at quarterback?
Oh,
and people were like, oh my gosh, how did the Saints win this game? If they had a competent offense, it would be 40-3 like it was the year before, and they won 6-0. It's because of the defense. You can always count on the Saints to have a great defense. Like Jeffrey, you know that from watching them with the Panthers. They're always going to have great defense, but their offense comes and goes. But should be interesting. Should be interesting.
And then up next in week 8, we got the Vikings and the Rams. And the Vikings, no more Kirk Cousins. And the Rams, I mean, they still got Matthew Stafford, but it just, they can't recreate that Super Bowl magic. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Jeffrey. I don't have too much to say on this because we know what the Rams are with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. We know what their ceiling is. But I am curious to see how their defense will do without Aaron Donald. Because Aaron Donald is officially retired. So I'm kind of interested to see how this Rams defense is gonna progress throughout the year. But as for the Vikings, like you said, Jeffrey, J.J. McCarthy, I'm very skeptical on J.J. McCarthy. And like, this is no disrespect to any Michigan fans or nothing. This is not an anti-Michigan program. It's just I feel like he never really played a really grade A defense in college. Like I feel like in the NFL he may show signs of cover your ears, Jeffrey. What happened with Bryce Young? I'm very skeptical of this for the Vikings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least for J.J. McCarthy, the Vikings are a better team than the Panthers. So it's not going to be that bad for him there. But still, I feel like J.J. McCarthy, a lot of the question marks that people have about Drake May also apply to J.J. McCarthy. I really do. And also, I mean, the fact that so many games Michigan was in last year and even the year before, they just won. They just blowouts. They won easily, and that's the problem because he didn't really have massive competition all the time. And the thing is that I just feel like for some of these quarterbacks that I'm not saying it was easy on them, just completely easy, but maybe their college experience went a lot more smoothly than some other quarterbacks. When they go to the NFL, it's a wake-up call. It is a rude awakening. And some guys can adjust and some never do. And there's every year you have some of these years. I mean, we're old enough. We've seen enough drafts where there's been so many great quarterbacks, quote unquote, and over half of them end up being duds. Half of them are busts. And I mean, they showcase so much in college. It's not that I guess, were never good, but they were just in a perfect situation, on a perfect team that everything went well for them. And then they go pro, and then maybe they're not on the right team, or maybe they're not in the right system, or maybe they just can't adjust to, certain, situation defenses, or they just can't figure it out, and then they're busts. I mean, it's just the way that it goes. I mean, Bryce Young in college versus Bryce Young now, no comparison. I mean, it's not even close. Like, it's insane, how much worse people think of Bryce Young after one season because of the Panthers weren't good and he didn't really have that much success and he didn't really do all that well versus when he was in college where people are like, he's elite. So that's the thing. This was a great quarterback class. There was a lot of great quarterbacks, but some of them are going to be duds. It could be Bo Nix, could be Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, could be Drake May, could be Caleb Williams. It doesn't matter who it is, but some of these guys are going to be busts, and we'll have to see which ones that there are. But McCarthy, this is a type of game that, this week 8, he's going to be in the NFL for a half a season. Is he getting into his groove now? Will he be able to go on the road, get a win? I think it's going to be an interesting game that probably could go either way. I think it's a decent game between two teams that are probably going to be at best decent.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting for sure. Now, on to week 9. You've got the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. Now, this is going to be interesting, Jeffrey. The Jets again. Why are they getting they're going to do this to us again, aren't they, Jeffrey? They're going to get all the primetime games that we go through tonight, and then someone's going to get hurt, and it's going to cost them their year. It's just going to happen. But this ought to be interesting because because we've got the New York Jets and we got the Texans. The Texans, who made a big offseason acquisition, trading for Stephon Diggs, upgrading their wide receiving core along with Tank Dell and company, and C.J. Stroud, who made a smoothless transition to the NFL. He's one of those quarterbacks, Jeffrey, that made that transition. He was able to read the defense. He was able to. He's finding his groove again, and in college to pro, seamless. Now going up against a veteran like Aaron Rodgers with a possible Super Bowl bound Jets team, this is going to be a really good Thursday night game. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And like I said with the other Jets game, Aaron Rodgers just has to be healthy. He has to be available for this game. And if he is, that's going to be a big boost for them. They're at home. CJ Stroud, I just am interested to see if he's going to have the sophomore slump, per se. Like, had the great rookie year, blew everybody's minds. Will there be any regression this season? Will he take a step back? I don't know. I mean, he was so good last year, and he flashed so much and was so consistent. I mean, he had like every now and then he had a dud game, but for the most part last year, he was really, really good. That I think there's a better chance than not that he'll be good again this season, if not improve. So we'll have to see. But I mean, there is a shot that he, regresses just a little bit this season. It's happened to some of the best quarterbacks out there. But I think that this is a game that it's a swing game for either team. I mean, we don't know what either team's record's going to be at this point, but just say like the Jets are like 500 at this point, and they really need a win. And like the Texans are maybe flying high and they're like 7-2. The Jets got to get it done. They have to get the win. Or it could be the other way around. Maybe the Jets are doing better with Rodgers and the Texans are, again, maybe Stroud's having that slump a little bit and they're kind of around 500. This could be a game that for one of these teams, they have to win if they're going to be a playoff team. So I think it's going to be a high stakes game for both teams.
Yes, I think it is too. And we know how good the Jets defense is. I just want to see how their offense is going to be by this point, especially with the addition of Aaron Rodgers. Now, as you see, weeks 10 through 14, we've got a run of division games. We've got the Bengals, Ravens. We've got Will's Commanders and the Eagles. Your boys made it, Will. Woo! The Commanders. That's a Super Bowl team right there, Jeffrey. Watch out. And then we've got the Steelers, Browns, got Packers, Lions. We've got a whole run of like division games. Mm-hmm. Any of these division games stick out to you? Or any of them that we could possibly be on up? Like any of them stick out to you? I got one that sticks out off the page to me.
I mean, obviously the easy one is going to be, the Bengals Ravens. I mean, that's a game that we need to see the Bengals get it together, right? Joe Burrow has had some injuries lately, and he hasn't been Joe Cool like he was, when he was when they made the Super Bowl that season. Even though they fell short, but I mean, the Bengals are a far cry from then. Like, they're just nowhere near the same team. And I think Joe Burrow's got to get his groove back. He's got to find a way to, stay healthy and get back to playing at the level he was playing at a few years ago. And it's going to be very tough to win at Baltimore. Very, very tough, because that environment is insane. And the Ravens, we know they're going to be good. Like you mentioned Derrick Henry earlier, that addition. I know Derrick Henry's getting older, but the fact that he's going to be on a team that has so much talent around him, I think that's just going to make his production go up. It's going to make it easier for him to be good. And so that it's going to be very tough to beat the Ravens. I think that the Bengals, this is a game that if they could win, it would showcase that they're back. And if they aren't able to win, or, if they barely lose, that's fine. But like if they get blown out, then it shows that Cincinnati's just going to continue to struggle. And then people are probably going to start having questions about Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, that's the easy game. You picked the easy one. You went for the easy target. You know what, Jeffrey? I think I got one. I want to see the Packers Lions week 14. That's kind of jumping off the page to me, because I want to know, is Detroit a one-hit wonder? Are they here to stay? Is Dan Campbell biting kneecaps permanently, or was he just biting them for last year? And how good is Jordan Love? Can he make the next jump? Because don't make me rewatch the wild card playoff game against us. Please just Let's not talk about that. That game never happened. It doesn't exist, okay? We'll throw that out. But the Packers, in all seriousness, though, Jordan Love played fantastic in that game. He played great in the 49ers game. The 49ers were just that much better than the Packers. But, Jeffrey, the big thing with the Packers is they released Aaron Jones, and people are like, why would you do that? He's been loyal to the soil. And then they get Josh Jacobs, and then a lot of Packers fans are like, why do that? Aaron Jones has been here forever, and he's just as reliable as anything. That's why this kind of jumps off the page. Do the Packers know what they're doing? I would like to think so. And you talk about young, Jeffrey. Look at that receiving core. There's not a guy over 25 on that receiving core, I don't think. This is going to be a fun game, and it's in Detroit late in the year. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would have been my second pick. I mean, I just went for the easy one. You're like, which one jumps off the page? I'm like, the easy one's the Bengals-Ravens. But that's a good game, too, Packers-Lions. You're absolutely right about the Packers. The receiving core, it's good. I mean, it's got so much youth. It's only going to get better. And Jordan Love, I mean, this is a prove-it season. Like, he proved a lot last year. And yes, that Dallas Cowboys game, I mean, I'm not even a quote-unquote true Cowboys fan or anything, but I like the Cowboys, and I've always defended Dak Prescott, and I always will. I don't care. People trashing Dak Prescott. Is he a top 5 quarterback in the league? I'm not saying that, but he's better than people think. But that game was so annoying. The Cowboys defense, Dan Quinn, it was awful. That's why people are like, Dan Quinn, he deserves a head coaching job. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Really? After that game where, I mean, you're just basically playing prevent defense and letting Jordan Love just throw all over the place. I mean, it was terrible. I couldn't believe it. But besides all that, because, I mean, I could talk about that for an hour. I mean, literally, the Green Bay Packers, though, they're much better than people, I think, were expecting with Jordan Love. I don't really think a lot of people were thinking he was going to go out there and play as well as he did, especially after the rough start. He started out kind of rough, and people were like, oh, Love's toast. He's no good. Then he got it together. So, I mean, that's a big game because Detroit – a lot of people talk about Dan Campbell. I like Dan Campbell. I like his fire. I like his energy. But there are moments where I feel like he just makes the absolute worst decisions imaginable. All in the basically the case of risk. He just likes risk. I mean, like going forward at times, he should going for 2-point conversions after you got the 2-point conversion, and then you didn't get the 2-point conversion, and then you go for it again when you're backed up. It's like, what are you doing, man? Like, I like you a lot. I think you're a good coach, but boy, oh boy. So this is a type game that I can see Detroit easily winning, and it's also a game I could see them losing because of the fact Green Bay might improve even more this season, and then Dan Campbell might make those couple decisions that backfire. So I think it could be a game that goes either way. I think the Lions have the advantage. They'll be favored, but I agree with you. It should be a good one.
It should be. And then as we scroll on down here on Thursday night, as we finish up the schedule, oh, what's this? We got a surprise pop in. Oh, no, we can't have Will. Not with his Commanders. Oh, no, Jeffrey.
Who are we, the Commanders? Let's go, Commanders.
We got Will on board here to talk about the Commanders and Eagles. I saw your comment earlier, Will. You're so excited about no more Ron Rivera, no more Jack Del Rio.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
But you're not a fan of the Dan Quinn hire. I agree. I don't know why they hired him because of the defense that he did.
Yeah. Like, he has a good staff. You know, Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, he's smart of that offense. I mean, I didn't think Eric Bieniemy did a horrible job, but Sam Howell wasn't getting that much better. So, time to go in a different direction. But you know what the Commanders can do? They can beat the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. Remember, 2022, Monday night in Philly, the Commanders, no one thought they would win, but they ruined the Eagles' perfect record because they had like 5 or 6 turnovers that game. They kept turning the ball over. It was beautiful. And
that's the only time I became a Commanders fan was that night, Will.
Mm-hmm.
It was so frustrating, though, this past season because I thought when the Commanders almost beat the Eagles both games last year.
Both
I'm like,
games, yeah.
the Commanders are good. They're not bad this season, and then turns out the Eagles just aren't that good. Just collapsed at the end of the year, so it's kind of hard to give the Commanders too much credit. But they played so hard in those 2 games.
Mm-hmm. The Commanders usually play hard in division games, although they've kind of gave up in Jerry's world the past couple of years, which have been sad. But hopefully this year will be different, and that Commanders can snag one in Jerry's for the first time since the COVID year. But we'll see.
Yeah, I gotta say,
Jackson now.
Will.
Yeah.
How you doing tonight, Jim?
Oh my! Now I like Jackson. He's a Titans guy. I might pick Titans win the Super Bowl. I might go crazy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. That's
I
pushing
appreciate
it.
the confidence in my Titans, good buddy, but I don't think we'll get that far. The AFC's just going to take turns getting out the belt and spanking us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! Look at this. The trio is back together.
We're back.
Oh my goodness.
We're so back like the Commanders are going to be this season.
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh!
I don't know about that. That's a little bit far fetched, right? I mean, depends on what you think of we're back. I mean, if they could
Getting in
maybe
the
win
playoffs.
7-8 games,
Like, we can be a wild card team.
yeah, maybe it's possible. I mean, what do you think about the draft season that they had? I mean, you think they did a good job, Will, with draft season?
Mm-hmm. Like, I wish we got Cooper DeJean, but I think all of our picks that we got made sense, unlike when Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew were making the decisions. Every draft, I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing every year? And then really only like one of our last like 5 first-round picks has worked out.
Well, that's better than the Raiders.
Yeah. But yeah, now we're competent, and I think the Commanders will be a competent NFL franchise again.
Well, they don't have Dan
Well, now that we
Snyder
got-
doing the mess around in the back room, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since the group's back together, let's talk some football together, shall we? And in Week 15, we've got the Rams, 49ers, Thursday night, a good old-fashioned division game.
That's awesome.
What are we thinking
That's
on this
gonna-
game?
That's going to be a solid game. I think it depends more on the Rams. The Rams have to be better. They got to improve. If they can improve this season, I think they can give the 49ers a game, especially toward the end of the season. And like maybe if the Rams are like fighting for postseason play, like if they're on the borderline of being a wild card team and they got to get a big win to get themselves into the playoffs, I think it could be close. And the 49ers, every now and then they have games, sometimes even like at home where they don't play as well and they can let teams hang around. So it could be a close game. I think it just depends more on how the Rams play, though. They have to play better.
I just remember, the 49ers Ravens game. I mean, obviously the Ravens were good, but they were just completely outclassed in that game. They can't play like that against the Rams.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, it's always
I
a
want-
top-notch rivalry with Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan going against one another.
I got to ask you, Will and Jackson, since you're both here, how do you think the Rams defense is going to look this year? You know, especially as we get later in the year without Aaron Donald, because he was the driving force of this defense. How do y'all feel about their defense coming into this year?
It'll be solid, but not as good as it's been in the past.
It's going to be a lot of big shoes to fill, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hope Kobe Durant, I hope he steps into it. They've got the pieces there. I just hope they can fill it. You know, I would hate for, the Rams to waste all this young talent like some of these teams have. Because there's some real...
Kyron Williams is one
Go
of
ahead,
the
Will.
favorite running backs in the league. I hope he keeps playing well.
Oh, well, we know why he's your favorite, because he's a Notre Dame guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyron Williams is
But
a
that's
really
okay,
good
though.
player. He is good. He just health is key in the NFL. It's key in every sport. Availability is the best ability. So I mean, you have to stay on the field, but he is a good player.
Yeah, him and Puka Nacua, they're fun.
Puka Nacua, man, no one was expecting that. Nobody was. He had an insanely good season. It was crazy.
But as we move on in the Thursday night slate, we've got Week 16, the Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals, a division rival. As me and Jeffrey have been saying, these could go either way. Deshaun Watson, it's going to come down to him. If he's healthy and playing, the Browns could be a Super Bowl contender. I'm going to say that. They could be a Super Bowl contender because their defense is spectacular.
Jeremiah
But Sean's going to stay.
Koromoa, baby. One of my favorite Irish players.
Man, the Browns last year had the weirdest season, man. All those quarterbacks, P.J. Walker, Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and then Joe Flacco, the savior of it all, man, for the Browns until he wasn't. He was good for a couple weeks, man. Turnovers and all, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks, but on some of those games, but he was getting them by. But yeah, it ended for Joe Flacco, the little run there. But yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson, I mean, he's just got to stay healthy. And I mean, obviously, all that stuff's technically behind him and everything. He just got to stay healthy. I mean, if he plays well, stays healthy, then I think even though some people will probably never like him again, it'll get some people back on Deshaun Watson's bandwagon. Some people.
Well, I noticed that
Jackson.
the Browns have a winning record against the Bengals in the 2020s decade. Now, the Bengals tend to have the upper hand over the Chiefs, but one team's always gained the upper hand over Cincy, with the exception at one point in last year, the Browns.
It's a good point.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. This is going to be in Cincinnati. I'm thinking this is going. I'm thinking the Bengals will be favored, but this is going to be a good game. I think
they should be favored unless they have another rough season, like if Joe Burrow has more health problems like injuries and stuff. I'm just hoping we see Joe Cool from 3 or 4 years ago. He needs to stay healthy, get back on track. He's a very fun player, but it's just been a rough road for him the last couple years. But I do think that will be a good game. Then week 17, we got the Seattle Seahawks and the Chicago Bears. I got one question for all you guys. Do you think Caleb Williams will be good or not in the NFL?
He'll probably be good.
I just wonder if Al Michael's going to contemplate. I just wonder if Al Michael's going to contemplate retirement after calling this game.
I mean, I think there's a good chance that all the NFC North teams could make the playoffs this year.
Ooh, spicy.
That's
interesting. I think he'll do all right. I hope the Bears fix their O-line. I know they made some key acquisitions with Keenan Allen. They made the DJ Moore trade, which we all seen how that worked out. They got a nice little running back combo going. Their defense, it's getting better. I think he's got the weapons to succeed. He just needs to make sure that O-line is fixed, or he'll end up like Justin Fields, running for his life back there.
I'm thinking the Bears will win.
Yeah, it's possible they could win. I mean, it just depends on how good they end up being. I think there's potential there, absolutely.
Seattle's not an easy team to play. That's what makes me very cautious. They're not the Legion of Boom Seattle, but they are still the Seahawks, whether you like them or not. They might have lost some of that identity with Pete Carroll being gone, but I still think Seattle is going to be really good. And Geno Smith, they wrote him off, and he didn't write back. Oh, yes, my favorite, Sunday Night Football. Go ahead, Jeffrey. I got ahead of myself. Go ahead.
First game of Sunday. Oh, I love that song.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
There's so many like remixes of like people singing that song. I love it, man. It's so good. I mean, if I was brave enough, I'd probably release a tape of myself singing it too, man. But it probably wouldn't sound that good. So week
There's
one,
only
we got
one Carrie Underwood.
absolutely. Week one, we got the Rams at the Lions on Sunday Night Football. Yeah, the Lions are going to be favored in this game. It's going to be interesting to see, like you said earlier, Austin, without Aaron Donald, how the defense looked for the Rams. I mean, it's just one of those things where the Lions just have to let, last season, it's behind them, just start fresh. They have a good team. They're the better team. Try to get on the right foot. It's tough in week one sometimes because, it's a new season to get on track. But I think the Lions, if they want to get off on the right foot, show that they're still as good of a team as they were last year, that they should take care of business here.
Yes. This will be a Thursday night opening night game, right?
This
No, that's the Chiefs Ravens.
Okay.
Chiefs Ravens open us up, Will.
Oh, that's a great one. I'm thinking the
I'm
Lions
looking forward to
should
this
take care of
because
business at home.
I'm looking forward to this personally because Stafford's going back to Detroit again.
Mm-hmm.
And deep down inside, I think. Oh, go ahead, Jackson.
I was just going to ask, who do you think has benefited more from the trade of Matthew Stafford, the Rams or the Lions?
The Lions.
I think it's a win-win.
The thing is that the Rams got the Super Bowl. They did.
That's
They got
fair.
the Super Bowl. They got the one Super Bowl. The Lions haven't gotten a Super Bowl yet, but they've gotten a whole lot better, and they're actually really good again for the first time in 30 years. So I do think it's a win-win. If all you care about is the Super Bowl, even if it's just one, then the Rams won the trade so far. But I think at the end of the day, you can make an argument, especially if what maybe possibly the Lions end up doing in the next couple of years, the Lions could end up winning the trade. But right now, I would say it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeffrey. It's a win-win. And I'm looking forward to this because I know on some levels, Stafford really wants to go to Detroit and beat the Lions. After they boot him out of the building in the playoff game, I'm sure he's probably thinking, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I want to show them what they're missing out on.
Yeah, maybe he'll play the Alice Cooper song, No More Mr. Nice Guy, before he goes in there. So then we got week 2. You got the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans. So you've got Caleb Williams and you've got C.J. Stroud. I mean, that's a game where it's going to be very tough for Caleb Williams to be able to go on the road, in week 2 and beat C.J. Stroud that's got the 1 year of experience under his belt in the pros. I mean, it should be a solid game, but I mean, I think you'd have to lean Texans there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bears will be a playoff team, but I think the Texans will win.
It kind of feels like we're going to be it's like a similarity to the 2018 Browns for the 2024 Bears. Like, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they'll have a say-so in who gets in.
Man, off topic, the Timberwolves destroyed the Nuggets. My goodness.
Yeah, I'm watching Game 5 of the Canucks and Oilers. It's tied 2-2.
Yeah, the Carolina Hurricanes just lost.
They're
done.
Joked, man. I was pulling.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I was kind of excited. One Carolina team was good. One professional Carolina team was good this year. But they finally
lost. This was a huge year for the Hurricanes, too. They went all in. So it sucks for them.
Week 3, we got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football. I mean, the Chiefs
should win.
I mean, the Falcons, we don't know how good they're going to be, and it is at home, but the Chiefs, they're a machine right now. They're just a machine.
I couldn't help but notice I see a lot of the primetime games where I see like the Chiefs going against the NFC South. I swear it's like they want to torture the NFC South so bad.
Oh yeah, they just want to keep it down, right? Like just continue to get beat down.
I'm interested if Michael Penix will play in at the end, maybe.
It's possible. It depends on if Cousins doesn't stay healthy or if he doesn't play well. I mean, he's getting older, and a lot of people think that he's not worth the money that they just paid him. So I mean, it could be like a Russell Wilson type of deal where he's aging and he's just not as good anymore. So I don't know. I think drafting Penix was insurance. Like I said earlier, I think that they drafted him just in case Cousins doesn't work out.
I mean, maybe if they're getting blown out, Penix will come in probably because I think this one could get ugly.
Mm.
Yeah, the Penix draft is basically similar to Jalen Hurts getting drafted. At the time when he got drafted by the Eagles, everybody questioned it. Everybody's like,
"Well, the Eagles had a good team then, though. The Eagles had a good team. The Falcons don't have a good team."
That's true. But anything can happen.
Yeah. Now I'm excited for this week 4 game.
I was surprised to see the Falcons Chiefs on the schedule real fast. Yeah. I saw that and I was like, that's a Sunday night game. I'm like, wow. Week 3 must not have very many games that people want to see. Holy cannoli.
It's a little weak. It's a bit of a weak game, especially considering that the Chiefs probably will be favored fairly heavily. I mean, if it was like the Bengals and Falcons or something, I think people would be like, oh, that's closer. But even still, like that's not a game that a lot of people think should be a prime time game. But it is what it is. Not the worst game in the world, but it could get ugly depending on how well the Chiefs play and how bad the Falcons play. Week 4, as you were trying to mention earlier, Will, but Bills, Ravens, that's a good one. I mean, again, I've said earlier with Josh Allen, these type of games, the Bills at Dolphins, Bills at Ravens, these games, I think Josh Allen desperately needs. He needs to prove soon that he can lead the Bills far because he's getting older. He's been hit a lot. How long will he be good with all these hits he's taken? I think that they need to have some success, deep, playoff run success, and getting wins like this in the regular season would build the confidence up. But it would be very tough to win at the Ravens, just very tough.
Yeah, just one. I'll do. Maybe it's a World Series. Maybe it's a World Series night. Maybe that's why Week 3 is bad. But for Week 4, man, I completely agree with you, Jeffrey. Like Josh Allen, he's got to show up, man. Like I'm trying to think of a good comparison for him. Maybe he's like the Phillip Rivers. Like he just can't get it done.
That's true. I mean, I would say that Rivers had worse teams than Josh Allen's had. I mean, specifically like the offensive line for a lot of the season. I know he had LT early on. And
2006, man, he blew it. The Chargers blew it, man. That was their year to win a Super Bowl, and then they choked to the Patriots.
Earlier in his career, the Chargers had better teams. Later in his career, the teams were bad. That's the thing. Like later in his career, they were awful teams.
Yeah.
And he was like trying to pull it together. Like I remember like watching like a ESPN show or whatever where they were saying that he had to like throw the ball quicker than any other quarterback in the NFL in those last few years of his tenure at the Chargers. Like he had no time to throw the ball.
Yeah, him and Big Ben had bad lines at the end.
Mm-hmm. And with Josh Allen, I feel like he's got enough around him for the most part. But I mean, the issue with Josh Allen is that he makes so many bad plays. Like there are the spectacular plays, the runs, the throws downfield that are, insane. But then he also just has a bunch of just dumb interceptions. Like, I mean, there's been, I think it happened like 3 or 4 times last year where he just chucked the ball down the field and it was picked off. And then the commentators were like, well, that's not too bad. It just ended up being a punt, basically. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but you still can't make dumb passes like that either. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting comparison with Phillip Rivers. Well, I think there is some comparison to that, but I don't know. I just feel like Josh Allen is losing favor fast with Bills fans and even NFL fans in general. Like he was lumped in like with all the other great younger quarterbacks like Mahomes and Burrow and all that, but he's kind of starting to get excluded in those conversations now.
Yeah, he just doesn't have that clutch gene in him.
Do you think people are going to do the same thing to Lamar Jackson if the Ravens don't get a Super Bowl in 2024?
Probably.
Maybe,
Especially if
but
they
it's
lose
not.
early.
I feel like it's less so his fault when they lose than Josh Allen.
That pick that he threw, man, was not his fault in the end zone. That was pass interference.
Them, looking at the Bills-Ravens game, I think it should be interesting. It's in Baltimore. I don't think weather's going to be an issue, which shouldn't be regardless because they play in Buffalo, for crying out loud. But I'm curious to see how the Bills' defense is going to respond to Derrick Henry, because they seem to have issues sometimes stopping the run. If you can run the ball on the Bills, you can have success. I'm thinking this is going to be a good game, though. And I'm curious to see if we have like a duel. First one to 40 wins, or whoever gets the ball last is going to win this game.
Yeah, it could be the case. I mean, I remember like the last time when Josh Allen was at his peak where people thought he was really good was when they had the duel in the playoffs with the Chiefs, where the game went to overtime and the Chiefs got the ball first at overtime and they ended up winning because they got the ball first. And that's when people are like, the rule needs to be changed because this game was too good for it to be decided like this when that whole argument was going on.
It is a bad rule.
So it's that's when people thought Josh Allen was really good. And since then, it's just steadily declined.
I've been screaming and hollering for the NFL overtime rules to change for basically my whole life.
It just shows that nobody listens to the fans, man.
Exactly. It's just dumb.
But week 5, we've got a classic old-time rivalry. We've got the Dallas Cowboys at the Pittsburgh Steelers with newly acquired Russell Wilson. I'm looking forward to this
Justin
game.
Fields.
Yes, it is true. If
It
there's
could be
one
Justin
game
Fields, man.
It could be, but I don't know. I think they promised him the starting job. That's what's been heard around camp. They're trying to switch fields to kick returner, punt returner, kickoff specialist. They're trying to keep him away from the starting quarterback job from the reports I've heard. But this is going to be fun. This is the one game I want to win more than anything. That and the 49ers game. You always want to beat the Steelers, always. And the Steelers defense has always been incredible. Mike Tomlin always finds a way to have a winning record. Like a couple years ago when the Steelers started when the Steelers started 1-5, Jeffrey and Will and Jackson, and they were able somehow to come out of it 9-7. And people were like, how does he do this? It's because the Steelers always play up to their competition, but they play down to the opponents they shouldn't. Because Jackson, I remember you saying a long time ago, if the Steelers playing a big-time game, they play up to that opponent. But if they're playing a team like the Panthers or the Cardinals, you can expect to get their worst. So in this game here, I expect to get their best.
Yeah, the Steelers and the Cowboys, the two most popular teams. They have the most fans. Very loud on Twitter. Win or lose, they're very loud on Twitter.
Nothing beats the Cowboys, though. Nothing beats the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Hey, now.
Now, I'm interested to see if Russell Wilson will stay the starter through this week. Like, if things start to go south for the Steelers, will they quickly switch to Justin Fields? That's what I want to know.
I think it's possible. That's why I mentioned earlier. I was laughing when I said it, but I legit meant it. Russell Wilson, his prime's gone. It's gone. I don't think you're even going to get 60% of Russell Wilson ever again. And if he does, I'll be happy for it. I like Wilson fine, but I'm just not seeing it. I mean, the regression is real. And Fields, I felt he was playing really, really well at the end at the Bears. I thought he was. That's why I thought they were going to keep him. I was advocating for it. You guys probably saw some of my tweets where I was like, Fields is good. They should keep him. Like I was that one run he had where he like escaped like 8 defenders or whatever. And he was just running all over the place. Like, I don't know. I know Fields is flawed. I know. And that's like you mentioned, Austin, about them possibly moving into returner because he's good at running and like his arm is not good enough. I get all those arguments, but if Russell Wilson is struggling severely at the Steelers and Mike Tomlin's going to have pressure on because his job's not safe. I mean, we've been hearing the last couple of years the fans like pushing for him to get fired because, yeah, he's never had a losing season, but he's been flirting with it the last few years. They haven't been all that good. So if things are not looking that good by this time, like if they're 1-3 or whatever, there could be a switch. It could go to Fields. I don't think either way the Cowboys should lose, though, but it's just going to be interesting to see what happens.
Now, I want to see if this will happen. Will we see Zeke at center? That's what I know. Will we see Zeke at center this season?
If the Steelers even considered firing Tomlin, I think it would be exactly like when the Eagles fired Andy Reid. Everybody that's got an opening is just sitting there waiting in the back room 5 minutes after it happens. We'd see the same thing with Tomlin.
It's probable.
We very well could.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Steelers fire a coach in forever, man. Like, they had Chuck Noll there forever, then he retired, then Bill Cowher, and then he retired, and now Tomlin. It'll be interesting to see.
It's like Purdue basketball with Katie and Painter. I mean, it's just been 2 guys forever. But, yeah, like the Steelers, they don't rotate coaches very often, for sure.
Okay, note to self, try to become the Steelers head coach at 45 years old. That way you got a job for life.
Yeah, good plan.
Speaking of note to self, why are we putting the Giants on Sunday Night Football again?
Should have been the Panthers.
Because NBC.
Week
Did you guys see those new Giants jerseys? Did you guys see them?
I think NBC really loves torture. So, I mean, that's probably why. Joe Burrow just throwing 400 yards against the Giants. Okay, this game's too violent. Don't let the kids watch.
Like, I'm glad that they're featuring the Bengals with Joe Burrow and company, but why the Giants? The Giants have showed regression after their good year with Dayball. I hope that they can be good again. Because then that makes the NFC East competitive, and it's not just between us and Philly to win the division. Sorry, Will, you even have to admit the Commanders hadn't been good in a while. I mean, y'all were good in 2020, Will. Y'all were good with Alex Smith.
Hey, don't sleep on the Commanders this season, man. Jaden Daniels, he's going to be the new Lamar Jackson.
It kills me how people are suddenly back on the Jaden Daniels train because of the season he has past year at LSU. Because prior to that, everybody was like, he's terrible. At Arizona State, he started out pretty well, but then after the Brandon Ayuk season in 2019 with Herm Edwards, things went south there. And then he went to LSU, and then didn't really do all that well that first season there. He did well that first season. This past season, he was great, and all that. And I get why people are now selling on his hype train, but it's just funny to me that now everybody is a fan of Jaden Daniels when prior to last season, nobody hardly was. I always thought he was solid. I mean, he did better than I was expecting this past year. I mean, he's really solid. I mean, I hope he does great for the Commanders, but I just think it's funny how people's tune can shift that quickly on a player.
It should be interesting. And Jeffrey, week 7, we've got another Jets primetime game. We've got the Jets at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers get 2 NBC games, both in Pittsburgh. I have a feeling that the Jets are getting all this hype again, Jeffrey, just for them to let us down somehow again.
Yeah, I mean, they're putting all these Jets games in primetime slots because of Aaron Rodgers. And I don't blame them. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a big name. Controversial at times. I mean, the way everybody's dogging him out for certain things. But whether you like Rodgers or not, I mean, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL the past almost 2 decades. I mean, he's never quite been the best. Brady held that candle forever. Breeze got so close. Peyton Manning at times. But Rodgers has been consistently good. He's been very, very solid, and he's had his high points. But lately, I mean, he's older now. I mean, his career is almost done. He's in the twilight of his career, and he's nowhere near, as good as he was before. And I think that the Jets, while they've made good acquisitions, I don't know if there's enough there for them to be as good of a team as a lot of people are necessarily expecting. But at the end of the day, I do feel like, they're going to be solid if he stays healthy. They're going to at least be a 500 team, but he has to stay healthy.
Jets, Jets. I mean, that defense for the Jets is going to be good. Like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be perfect. He just has to be, competent. He has to be at Derek Carr level. And I think that Jets will have a great chance of being in the playoffs. I mean, if the Steelers can make it last season, the Jets can definitely make it this season.
I mean, we also can't forget Aaron Rodgers won the MVP 2 years in a row as well. Mm-hmm. So he's still got some gas in his tank, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen with the Jets. I would love to see them in the playoff throughout this season, but who knows? I just don't like seeing anybody have any hard luck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's the game you were talking about, Austin. Cowboys.
Here we go.
49ers.
Cowboys at 49ers. Everybody's going to have this one circled. Everybody is.
Whether you're a Cowboys fan or not.
Every time. It's hammer to nail every time. It's like, 49ers and Cowboys. 49ers are going to win that one.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We have to win one of these, right? And why is it we're going to San Francisco again? Why do the schedule makers want us to go to San Francisco? Why can't they come to Dallas? Look, come play in Jerry World. We're always going to their stadium.
Boys. Come on, damn boys. Get their ass. Get their ass. Get their ass. Come on, damn boys.
I know last year was a very bad game. It was one of Dak Prescott's worst games he played all year. That 49ers defense was smothering. Our offense looked out of sync, out of rhythm. Our defense did not look like top 10 like we finished throughout the year. It was just an all-around bad game. But we're in week 8 now, so maybe we'll have things clicking and going again. Maybe by then the 49ers will have played a tougher schedule than we will have, and they might be a little banged up or a little more exhausted, and we can kind of take advantage of some of their problems.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas, it's kind of like with Josh Allen in the Bills to an extent, but it's the Cowboys, so it's on a whole other level. But, people are just waiting for them Cowboys, to get back to the Super Bowl and win the daggum thing. Everybody's waiting for that to happen. I every time I think of the Dallas Cowboys, I think of the King of the Hill, man. Like Hank Hill with Troy Aikman, man, back in the 90s. And it's like Dallas was at the top of the world because, they had that 90s dynasty and everything. Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones and everything. And then obviously fired Jimmy Johnson, which was the dumbest decision ever. And then after that, things just started to decline. And then they weren't at the top. And then now, it's been so long since Dallas has been able to get back and win a Super Bowl. It's been way too long for an organization that is America's team. They got the label America's team and all that. Which, I think it's funny that I think it's funny. I think it's funny that the NBA doesn't have an America's team, quote unquote. I know a lot of people probably say it's Boston or Los Angeles Lakers or whatever, but nobody says America's team, but in the NFL, they got the Cowboys. So I think it's funny with that, but it's like they need to prove it, man. They need to get back. And Dak's not getting any younger, like Josh Allen, not getting any younger. And I think that Dak Prescott, if he's ever going to get respect from his haters, doubters, whatever you want to call it, then someone like me I look at him and he was a 4th-round pick. Not much was expected from him coming out of Mississippi State in college. He's overperformed my expectations in the pros. But people now that don't look at that and they're like, well, Dak's the face of America's team. He needs to do better. He's never going to earn that respect unless he can go on that deep run and possibly win a Super Bowl for the Cowboys. In games like this against the 49ers on the road, they need to win to prove that, but it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. And we did lose Austin, so can't get any more thoughts on the Cowboys real quick.
But I tell you what, man, them dang old Cowboys, man, as long as they got old Jerry Jones, man, I tell you what, they're not going to win dang old thing, man. I tell you
They
what.
aren't going to win a thing. They aren't going to make it to an NFC Championship game until Jerry dies.
I love Boomhauer, man.
But dang old Boomhauer slurs, man, I tell you what.
Oh,
Hit the wrong button.
You're good, man.
Mm-hmm.
What game are we on now, fellas?
We're still talking Cowboys Niners.
The 90s are all that, man.
Thanks, Jackson. That's the last time we won anything.
Well, maybe in the drought this year. Bring out that belt. Let's go.
I hope so, but I don't see it happening. I hope we at least make the playoffs again. But I'm hoping this will be a better game than last year.
The thing that frustrates me with Dallas, and certain teams have done this to me before, but I just cannot stand the inconsistencies of Dallas. Like some games, they go out there, and to coin Jackson's phrase of bringing out the belt, they go out there and spank some teams, and they just look like they're the best team in the NFL by far. And then they have duds like the Cardinals game last year, Arizona Cardinals. And then obviously the Packers game in the wild card that was just pathetic. It is frustrating. It's like, why in the world can you be so good one week and then so bad the next? I mean, the same players, the same coaches. It's the same team. It should not be that inconsistent. That's the problem with Dallas. They are one of the most inconsistent teams I've ever seen in my life.
How about them Cowboys?
Will, you better stop it. Or I revoke your privileges.
We have any more thoughts on Cowboys 49ers? You ready for Jaguars Eagles?
I'm ready to hear about
coming back to Philly.
I'm ready for that battle between Jalen and Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Lawrence Industries.
A lot of people are souring a bit on Trevor Lawrence too, a little bit lately.
I think he was playing hurt.
He was hurt. I agree. I think he was not healthy, which made his play a lot worse, kind of like Baker Mayfield that season with the Browns. I think he'll be fine, but I mean it's an interesting game because of the fact that we don't know where the trajectories of these teams are right now. The Eagles, I mean, they made the Super Bowl a couple years ago, lost, and then last year was just, I don't know what you want to call it. They looked good at first, quote unquote, then collapsed. But I mean, where are these teams going to be at by week 9? If Trevor Lawrence is healthy, the Jaguars might be really good. But can Philly, get back to that type of season that they had a few years ago, a couple years ago? Can they get back to that and play at a high level? I'm not sure. I mean, they've lost some players. We'll just have to see how they perform. This is a game I feel like could go either way.
It's just frustrating, man. I was thinking the Eagles were really falling off, but I feel like Saquon Barkley is really good for them.
Yeah, that was a good acquisition.
Oh, yeah. Giants are going to be regretting letting him go.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's going to make Philly different this year. Is now, as with DeAndre Swift and those other guys, they were really good running backs. But I feel like Saquon's going to take that offense to the next level because if Jalen could get healthy, because he was playing on a bad knee. As much as I don't like to say it as a Cowboys fan, he was playing on a bad knee. So that probably caused a lot of his bad play and inaccuracy. But now that he's had a whole off season, hopefully to rest, get well, I think the Eagles offense could possibly get back to where they were the year they made the Super Bowl, possibly. And this is going to be interesting too, because Jacksonville had a Sunday night game against the Ravens, and they crapped the bed, so to speak. So it should be interesting to see a primetime stage. Are the Jags really ready for it?
Yeah, it's just like with Derrick Henry, moving from the Titans to the Ravens, and he'll be on a better team where he could possibly, even though he's getting older, he could possibly, regain that early Titans form to an extent because he's going to be on a better team and can't put all the focus on him. And then it's the same thing with Saquon Barkley. I mean, he could really showcase a lot more and get back to, the production that he had earlier in his career, being on a better team. Because with him being with the Giants, man, their O-line was so bad that he couldn't get any running lanes. I mean, to get 2 or 3 yards was the biggest chore in the world for him, and he couldn't stay healthy. So if he can stay healthy and him being on a better team and have, a dynamic quarterback next to him and Jalen Hurts, then that could really help out Saquon Barkley a lot.
I mean, Saquon's only 26 or 27.
Yeah, he's younger than Derrick Henry, too.
Mm-hmm. He has a lot of time left.
Mm-hmm.
On to week 10, though. How about the Detroit Lions at the Houston Texans?
This is a good
As we
little
see
game.
the Texans, I think, this is kind of shocking, but they're giving the Texans more primetime games now.
Mm-hmm.
After a year ago when they didn't have very many whatsoever. And I want to credit D'Amico Ryans, show him some love. How he was able to turn that Texans team around so quick. Jeffrey, you talk about it all the time. And I credit you for this, and I even credit you guys down at the bottom because you all brought it up at various times. Normally when a coach comes into a crappy situation, it's hard to turn a program around, or in this case, turn a team around, a franchise. But D'Amico Ryans has done that.
Mm-hmm.
And he got his guys, Will Anderson, C.J. Stroud, and now they're adding Diggs and Tank Dell. And it's just like I really think the Texans are moving in a great direction. And, with Detroit, we saw them as well. Dan Campbell, they were competitive his first couple years. And now they win the division. They almost go to the Super Bowl. I think this has all the makings of maybe a shootout because you're going to have a lot of young teams on this, a lot of young players on this team, and great head coaching battle. The defensive mind against the defensive mind. I'm looking forward to this game.
Yeah, this could end up being one of the best primetime games, like low key. I mean, all these really great games on the list, and then you just got this one. Like the Lions, Texans, no one would have thought that the Texans would have done what they did last year, no matter how high anybody was on C.J. Stroud. And they did it, like you said, Austin. D'Amico Ryans is so impressive. And now it's about maintaining that or improving on it. Can't backslide, can't regress. And they've made a lot of great additions. So if C.J. Stroud just keeps up the level of play, it should be really good again, if not better. And the Lions, I mean, I don't think they're going to be worse. I mean, they just have to get that, tough end of the season behind them. I mean, it all started, man, with the Cowboys game. I still just can't believe that ending, man, to that Cowboys-Lions game. With all that chaos, man, all the referees, man, and the and the linemen, did he, like, I guess you would say whatever the phrase is, or like did he check in or whatever on the play, to say that he's eligible or whatever. It's just that all that was nuts. And like after that, like the Lions, it was just so frustrating because like the fans were like, we've been down for so long, and now that we're playing good again, we're getting screwed like this. It was bad. And then the game that they had in the playoffs where Dan Campbell made all those mistakes, they just got to get all that behind them. They just have to move on. It's over with. New season. Everybody's starting fresh. We're gonna try to make a Super Bowl run. This is a big game for the Lions. With a Texans team, it's young, it's improving drastically. I think this could go either way, but I think if the Lions truly want to prove that they're possibly Super Bowl material or close to it, they got to win this one.
I would love to see the Lions Texans somehow be a Super Bowl rematch. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but I mean, both of these teams have never been to a Super Bowl, but it would be huge if that happened.
Another interesting matchup. Stephon Diggs against Detroit. He played Detroit for so many years in Minnesota, so he knows this team better than they know him. So he's able to tell his team, he's able to tell them, like, hey, we know what this Lions team is about. Don't take this team lightly because there is complacency in this league. We all know it. Why do you think the great ones make it through? Because they make sure there's no complacency. And that's why Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were able to win as much as they did, because there was no complacency. They treated every opponent the same way, whether you were good, bad, or ugly. So I feel like that's going to give the Texans an edge in this game, having that player that played in the same division as the Lions.
True.
Yeah, that's a great point, Austin. Kind of like as well when you talk about the Chiefs right now with Andy Reid. I mean, they don't have that complacency factor in them. I mean, outside of the Raiders game last year, outside of that game, I feel like, they played, for the most part, there was a couple early season games, but by the time they flipped that switch latter part of the season into the playoffs, it was peak performance after peak performance for the most part. Didn't take any opponent for granted. And I mean, that's why they've won all these Super Bowls. Now, obviously, a lot of people are still mad about it. Again, there was a lot that went in the Chiefs' favor. Sometimes luck can be legit. It can be a legit factor. I mean, there was a little bit of luck in the game for Kansas City, but at the end of the day, I mean, they persevered and found a way to win, and now he's got 3 Super Bowls. I mean, you just can't teach that. I mean, they're not letting complacency seep in, and they're wanting to continue to keep winning. It's like 1 isn't enough, 2 isn't enough. And I feel like that's when we're going to see possibly with Dan Hurley and UConn in college basketball. Can they continue the dynasty? Can they continue to build on what they've already done and do it again? It's going to be hard to do it again, but that's when you have, the great ones, the great coaches, the great players that just can keep doing it. And I think that's a great point you made, Austin.
Uh-oh. Austin, you're off.
Why the crap do the Jets have this many primetime games, man? Like, I don't care about the Jets that much.
It's
don't.
Aaron Rodgers, man. It's just because of Aaron Rodgers. It's a little unfair. I mean, I don't think one player should make it where you have all these primetime games, especially when they weren't even that good last year. But, I mean, it is what it is. Like you said, I mean, the Jets don't care about them that much. But this Colts-Jets game, what are you guys feeling on this one?
I'm interested to see how Anthony Richardson can do in his second year.
Yeah, it has to stay healthy. I mean, we barely got to see him at all this past season.
I want to see how healthy both quarterbacks can be.
Do you think Aaron Rodgers will make it the entire season without getting hurt?
No.
Well, he's going to get through Leonard Floyd on Monday Night Football first, because that's the same guy that got him hurt in Week 1 last year on Monday Night
I mean,
Football.
I'd have to agree with you, Will, and that's a good point, Jackson, as well. I'm really skeptical. That's why I've already said it, like in every single, section that we've gotten to the Jets. I'm like, Aaron Rodgers' health. I mean, I'm really skeptical that he can make it an entire season without a significant injury. It's going to be very difficult.
Well, he's always got the Pat McAfee show and possibly a position at Club Random Studios with Bill Maher. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options for him outside of football. I know you love the game and you want to keep playing it, but sometimes you do have to know when to walk away. And this is going to be a big season, to see if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy and he's got more juice in the tank. And if he can't stay healthy, it might be time to hang it up. Then you got the Eagles at Rams. I mean, this is a game that, depending on how good the Eagles are, I mean, they probably would be favored, but we don't know how the Rams are going to be either. So,
yeah, both teams are definitely question marks.
Should be a solid game, possibly. Niners at Bills.
Another
mean,
game where Josh Allen has to show up.
yes.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
literally all of these primetime games, Josh Allen needs to show up. The Bills need to show up, and they need to win at least
Mhm.
like half of these primetime games. You don't have to win them all, but you have
There-
to win at least half. You can't lose them all.
49ers Bills, there's Chris Berman's favorite Super Bowl prediction. Like he literally predicted it all throughout the 90s. Oh, 49ers Bills gonna make it. 49ers Bills, 1991, 1993. 9.5 years later. Oh, I think the 49ers Bills gonna make it to Super Bowl. Yeah, you've been saying that for a decade, bro.
Will the Bills be that good without Stephon Diggs?
Probably
I
not.
don't know. I really don't know. I was surprised they let him go, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't
That
know if it's a good
AFC
move.
Oof, if everybody's healthy, that AFC East division, with the exception of the Patriots, is basically going to be a free for all.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Well, it should be an interesting game. 49ers will be favored. If they're going to be as good as they were last year, they should win. But big game for Josh Allen and the Bills. Then you got the Chargers. First time we talked about them at the Chiefs. I mean, we know that a lot of people are hyping up the Chargers because of Harbaugh, Justin Herbert. A lot of people still think he's got, tons of potential still. I mean, a lot of people are high on him, and then, he had some injuries, and now people are a little bit low on him. So it's a big year for them, and year one of Harbaugh to see where they're at. But that's going to be a tall order to win at Arrowhead.
Mm-hmm.
True. And I'll be honest with you, gents. If Harbaugh can't get the Chargers a Super Bowl as long as he's the Chargers coach, they're never going to get a Super Bowl at all.
That's a big hot take, but it's probably true. I mean, this is their time.
There we go.
Packers at Seahawks in Week 15. I mean, that's another tricky game. I mean, the Packers made the playoffs last year, knocked off the Cowboys. Jordan Love, a lot of people were wondering if he can continue to improve. They got a lot of young wide receiver talent. Then you got the Seahawks, no more Pete Carroll. That's an interesting game. It's tough to win on the road in Seattle, though.
That's true. But I would not be surprised if we see that game get moved out of Sunday night. Because, I mean, because Week 15 is that time of the year where you can just move games out of Sunday night, move them into Sunday afternoon. And a game that was like originally slated for Sunday afternoon, you can move it on down to Sunday night.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, when they do that, Jackson, it almost makes you wonder why they even schedule these at all this late. I know they want to go in and get like the schedules out, unlike with college football where they do it like 2 or 3 weeks in advance. They just want to go in and do all like the prime time, so But the thing is that if you're just going to move them, then it almost would just make sense to like release the first half of the prime time schedule and then do the other half accordingly based on how like the teams are doing and who's doing the best, like what's going to be the best game or whatever. Because if it's just that easy to move the games, and it really doesn't make sense to go ahead and schedule them in the first place.
That is true. So I mean, we can see it moved up twice. But for Sunday night football, it may be used up twice between weeks 5 and 10, and at the NFL's discretion during week 11 through 17. There's no, as sure as God's little green apples on that tree, there's no way we're seeing Chargers Chiefs get moved out. I mean, that's just not happening.
Oh no,
Colts Jets, that could happen. Packers Seahawks, absolutely.
With Colts Jets, if Rodgers is hurt and he's not playing, they'll move that game. If he's available and the Jets are over 500, they'll keep it probably.
Yeah.
Then Week 16 got Bucks at Cowboys. I mean, that's a game the Cowboys can't lose. I mean, they need to win that one. I mean, the Bucks should be solid, but if Dallas loses this late in the season at home to a team like Tampa Bay, that'd be a bad look. Then you got the Dolphins at Browns. That's a solid game, pretty solid game. I mean, Miami
Miami needs
probably
to
a
make
better
They
team.
need to make that next step. They need to take
Yeah.
that next step.
I agree.
Yeah. But week 18, we'll know what's going to happen on who'll be on the doubleheader for Monday Night Football on Saturday when it gets closer to week 18. And we'll know who's going to be the Sunday night matchup by then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why they have the to be determined. Do you guys want to do the Monday night games real quick?
Sure.
All right. Monday night, week 1, Jets at 49ers. So many Jets.
Freaking Jets. No one cares.
So many Jets, man. I mean,
Mhm.
at 49ers. I know at week 1, you don't know how
Yeah,
these teams
it should be
look, but
it
it
should be
be
easy
49ers.
money for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's ironic because, like, it was like I said a little while ago, Leonard Fournette was the guy that got Aaron Rodgers hurt week 1 between Jets Bills last season, start off the year. Now we're seeing Leonard Fournette as a San Francisco 49er. And can Aaron Rodgers get through Leonard Fournette? I'll be honest, I really hope so.
Yeah, I hope he stays healthy. I don't want Rodgers to go down, especially in week 1 again. I mean, that would just like rip the hearts out of the Jets fans, man. They just want to see Rodgers. I mean, that's why they made the trade. They just want to see what he can do. I mean, I'm skeptical of how good he'll be at the stage of his career if he is healthy, but hopefully he just stays healthy regardless. But it should be the Niners. Falcons, Eagles. I mean,
Eagles
it's going to
should
be
win.
tough for the Falcons to win on the road at Philly in week 2. And usually Philly plays better earlier in the season.
Yeah.
I mean, they usually do. So, yeah.
ESPN, quit punishing the Falcons.
Then you got week 3, 2 games, Jaguars at Bills, and then your Commanders will against the Bengals.
Well, Jaguars Bills should win at home, but I could see the Jaguars winning. If my Commanders can get pressure on Joe Burrow and their bad O-line, we'll have a chance. But our defensive backfield is still suspect, so
Yeah.
But we're gonna need constant pressure on Burrow to have a chance.
Well, and
Do you
Jeffrey, it's like
you think the Bengals will have a good year?
I don't know, man. Their O-line still sucks. Like, I just
Yeah.
don't think Burrow is going to be healthy the whole season. He'll be healthy in this game, so we'll probably lose. But
I hope he
I don't
does stay
trust-
healthy all year.
Yeah.
But to your point, Will, it's probably not likely he'll stay healthy the entire season, especially if the O-line's still really bad. What were you going to say, Jackson?
I was going to say the Bengals, they can absolutely have a better season this year than they did last year.
Oh yeah, I hope they do. I mean, I like Joe Burrow a lot. It's just tough seeing guys that had so much promise and were playing so well, then start going through the injury bug, and then they just can't ever recover. Yeah, I mean that Jaguars Bills game is going to be a good one, I think, because I mean the Bills, they need to win one of these primetime games, and the Jaguars, if Lawrence is healthy, they could absolutely win that one on the road. I think it's 50-50, but it could be Jaguars. And then Commanders, like it all comes down to Burrow and can he get the ball out of his hand. If he does, then I think they win. If not, Commanders could get that one. Then week 4, you got – go ahead, Jackson.
Well, it's like you said, you know, all night tonight that the Bills are in a lot of what-if games. Can they win this game? Can they win that game? They'll definitely have to show themselves on ESPN on Monday night. Oh, wait, no, week 4 doubleheader on my birthday. It's like ESPN wanted to give me a birthday present.
Yeah,
unfortunately, you're going to have to watch your Titans play. I'm sorry.
It's all right with me.
Maybe it'll be a competitive game. Maybe as a birthday present for you, Jackson, it'll be a competitive game. I mean, Miami, like Will, you said earlier, they need to prove the next step. I mean, if they haven't reached that next step, maybe Tennessee can keep it close. But I think Miami should win that one.
It'll be a fun one.
Seattle, Detroit. I mean, the Lions are at home. I mean, you would think Lions
they should
too.
Win.
Saints at Chiefs week 5. Oh man,
Jesus! Quit torturing the NFC South.
No way, man.
Quit it,
No
ESPN.
way
Quit it, NBC. What did they do to you guys?
Yeah, they just want to make the NFC sound like a joke, the joke division forever.
It's just so
Honestly, guys, Saints Chiefs could be a really fun game because the Saints defense might be able to hold Patrick Mahomes in check for 3 or 4 quarters. And if Derek Carr's playing at a high level, and plus, it goes back to what I said earlier about Stephon Diggs playing Detroit annually. Derek Carr knows the Chiefs as well. So this could be a better game than you all expect. I would not sleep on this primetime game on a Monday night.
That's true.
I mean, it could be good. It's just the fact that it's at the Chiefs. I mean, it just depends if the Chiefs, pull a game like the Raiders or whatever. And if they have a game like that, obviously the Saints could win. But New Orleans, I mean, they need to prove that their offense can be capable. Because you're going to have to score points to beat Kansas City. So it should be interesting, but probably Chiefs for me anyway. Then you got Bills, Jets, man. It's just Jets. So many Jets games, man.
And more Jets.
Oh, my goodness.
One thing I got to say, though, if the Jets do live up to this hype, the NBC and everyone and all of our media partners are going to be like, the Jets, we got to put them in 10 primetime games next year.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't think any team deserves 10 games in prime time. That's just excessive, man. Oh boy. But I mean, Bills Jets, I mean, that's an interesting game because
It's a good rivalry.
We keep saying that the Bills got to win one of these. This one might be like the easiest for them to win of all the games because they're better than the Jets. But if Rodgers is healthy and the Jets are playing pretty well, the Bills could still lose. It's not a gimme game for them. But I think the Bills have a better than 50% chance to win, but it's not a guarantee.
Oh yeah, I mean this game is basically a Jets got to win one of these.
And I feel like it's almost both. The Bills and the Jets, it has to win one of these because the Bills could legitimately lose all those other primetime games we talked about. All of them. And if they do, then this one's absolutely must win. If the Bills get swept in every primetime game they have, then there's going to be serious talks about Josh Allen no longer being the quarterback there. I mean, they got to win at least one or two of these, and specifically this one. I feel like there's more pressure on the Bills than the Jets because people are probably expecting more from the Bills, even though obviously the TV people think the Jets deserve all these games. But they probably shouldn't. Week 7, you got the Ravens at Bucks and Chargers at Arizona Cardinals. I mean, Arizona getting one game. I mean, Chargers are better. So.
Well, here's
the road
catch
team should win.
For the retirement home of the NFL. It's on ESPN Plus.
Road team should win.
I agree with you, Will. I do. I think both road teams should win, especially Chargers. That one's seemingly more likely to me. I mean, the Ravens, Bucks maybe could trip them up at home, maybe, but I think the Ravens should win too. Giants at Steelers week 8. Steelers are better, probably, but the Giants, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the Steelers QB situation.
I might be watching college basketball that night. It's not the best game.
Yeah, especially if it was like a good game. I mean, you never know with the Giants. They could be decent. I don't know. But the Steelers, if their quarterback situation is decent, then they should win being at home. We got Traveling Fools in the chat. Appreciate you for stopping by, Traveling Fools. He says, quit smiling, Will. Oh, my goodness.
You think the Giants,
man.
Is it too late for the Giants Steelers to get moved up to Disney Plus?
Disney Plus. Oh my gosh. I don't think that's going to boost Disney Plus's ratings though.
unless this is one of those games where we see the Steelers play down to the Giants and then some of the fans get super drunk on that game fighting with each other.
Oh, man. That's hilarious.
It'll be another exciting episode, Days of Our Steelers from Urinating Tree, man.
That's hilarious. Then we got the Bucks Chiefs. I mean, it's
Rematch of that
Arrowhead.
Super Bowl.
Yeah. I
Chiefs
think it's
should
gonna be
win.
tough for the Bucks to win that one and being on the
Mhm.
road. Chiefs just can't choke like they did in the Raiders game, like I've mentioned before. Dolphins Rams. I mean, it
Good
depends on how
game.
good the Rams are. Miami should win it, you would think, but
I mean,
you never
it's
know.
a 50-50.
Yeah, I think it's close to 50-50. I would say it's 60-40 Dolphins, 55-45 Dolphins, but Rams could win. It's always tough to travel across the country, too, but I would lean Dolphins by a hair, but it could be good. Texans, Cowboys.
The battle for the state of Texas, and
Underrated
the Texans,
game.
the Texans will be ready for this one.
Oh, yeah, they're going to give it 110%. Imagine if the Texans win. That's just going to irritate Cowboys fans so much. I mean, Cowboys are the better team on paper, but
Really? Are they? Are they?
I think they are. They're the better team. I mean, it's not like by this much. It's not a significant gap, but they're still the better team, I think.
Even without all their free agency people leaving?
I mean, that's
yeah.
true. That's true. I don't know. I still think they're a little bit better. What do you think, Jackson? You think the Texans are better than the Cowboys on paper, the team?
Right now, it's them boys, but anything can happen.
I mean, Will's got a point. I'll give you that. The gap is not wide. Like 2 years ago, the gap was massive. Texans have caught up so much ground in such little time. It's unbelievable. And I mean, I could easily see him winning this game. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, the thing is, anybody beating the Cowboys wouldn't shock me. Even the Panthers. Like, if the Panthers beat them, I wouldn't be blown away. The Cowboys lost to Arizona last year. So any team can beat Dallas if Dallas plays poorly. But the Texans, I think Dallas will play hard because, they're both Texas teams. But I could see Texans winning. Easily see it. Should be a good game, though. Week 12, got Ravens at Chargers. I mean, cross the country, but Ravens are better.
Ravens should win.
Ooh, the Harbaugh battle.
Yeah, it's a Harbaugh bowl.
You gotta love that one. It should be hotly contested, both Harbaughs, but I still think the Ravens are leagues ahead of the Chargers right now. It's going to take a lot more roster building for the Chargers to get on that level.
It's gonna be an awkward night on Thanksgiving Day for the Harbaugh family.
Absolutely. Then you got the Browns at the Broncos. That's a tricky game. I still think Denver's gonna have growing pains.
Yeah.
Probably Cleveland as long as Deshaun Watson's healthy, but Bengals at Cowboys, week 14. I don't know, man. I mean, it depends. If Joe Burrow is not healthy, if he because you mentioned earlier, Will, that you think by the end of the season Burrow might be hurt. If he is, then Dallas would have a lot easier of a chance to win. But if somehow, some way Burrow's still healthy and he's on his feet, he's playing well, there's a shot Bengals could win. But it's probably lean Dallas unless Burrow is healthy. Then week 15 got a doubleheader of Bears at Vikings, Falcons at Raiders. I mean,
mid games.
Yeah, they're both, especially the second one.
Jeez, Louise.
Falcons Raiders is not ideal.
I mean, Bears Vikings will be fun because of the new quarterbacks.
Yes. Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy.
I mean, I'll be honest. We could see some of these games get phased out because, I mean, starting in week 12, you can flex out the Monday night games. And it's only good through week 12 through week 17. No way.
It'll be hard for them to keep that Falcons Raiders game.
Yeah. Or like, depending on how the Broncos Browns are doing, we don't know if that's going to stay on Monday night. And if the Saints are underachieving again, they may just phase out the Saints Packers to Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all those games could be moved. I mean, like I said, I know why they do that. because, I mean, they want the best game, but it also just it kind of makes no sense why you would even schedule these to begin with when the odds of them getting replaced are probably high. It doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. Then you got week 16, Saints, Packers, like you mentioned, could get phased out. I would lean Packers.
Yeah,
Can't trust the Saints offense right now, especially on the road. Lions 49ers is really good. That's a good way to close out the known games anyway on Monday night. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I would have to lean Niners because it's on the road, but it should be a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
There
You guys
we
want
go.
to do any of the other type of games like the international, because we've done all the Thursday, Sunday, and Monday night games. You got like the Thanksgiving schedule and like the Black Friday. You want to do those quickly?
Oh, sure.
Get it in the freaking net. No.
So on NFL Thanksgiving at 1 o'clock, we got the Bears at the Lions. It's going to be interesting.
Well, the Lions don't usually do so hot on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they blew it last year.
They did blow it last year.
Maybe this year will be a change. You know, they.
I mean, last year, man, I thought the Lions were gonna win last year, and they choked, man, on Thanksgiving. They just choked. It was such a rough game for them. They just kept making mistake after mistake. So I would pick the Lions, but I agree. I don't trust them on Thanksgiving. I don't know. I probably would pick them. It depends on when that part of the season comes, depending on how they're playing. If they're playing really, really well, I might pick them, but it is definitely hard to trust them. Then you got Giants at Cowboys at 4:30.
Cowboys should win that, but they could choke.
Yeah, and like Austin said earlier, the Cowboys usually perform well against New York anyway. And then you got Dolphins at Packers.
Dolphins
Sneaky.
don't play well in the cold. We saw it.
They don't. That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going Green Bay, I guess, because of that.
Oh, yeah.
Sneaky game, though.
Oh,
Black
man.
Friday at 3, Raiders Chiefs, the return of the Raiders Chiefs. Will the Chiefs choke against Las Vegas again, man? I couldn't believe that game, dude.
I couldn't believe it either.
I mean, I was like, what is going on with the Chiefs? I was legit concerned with them. I was like, are they like regressing? Are they no longer as dominant as they once were? And then they figured it out, won the Super Bowl. But man, that game was rough. I mean, I guess like right now you have to lean Chiefs, but you just never know, man, after what happened last year.
Oh, man. The Raiders. I'll be honest. I don't think they like my venting sessions too much. Because, like, Austin, you probably remember this because, like, we talked about it a lot last season. It was like, why guys they put the Raiders Chiefs on Christmas Day? That's just a waste of our time. But, again, to be fair, it was when Josh McDaniels was the head coach. But when Antonio Pierce became the interim coach, I was like, I'm not going to complain about the Raiders being on Christmas Day. And this year, yet again, they're on a holiday day. I'm not complaining about the Raiders being on Black Friday.
Absolutely. I mean,
I got a question.
Last year, they've earned it.
But I got a question for you, Jeffrey. And this may just be like a clip-worthy clip for both channels, Sports Talk with Austin, Only Talk Sports. You got to choose between college football games on Black Friday, like Nebraska, Iowa, Arkansas, Missouri, and Utah, UCF. And you got the NFL game, Raiders, Chiefs on Amazon Prime. Which are you choosing?
That's a great question, because if you're basing it off of like what game is close, like, and I can flip to the other game if it's not, I would probably start out with the NFL game. I would watch Raiders Chiefs, and if it's really close, then I would probably stick to that. But if it's like not close, it's a blowout, I would switch over to college football. But if I had to choose between just NFL or college football, I mean, me personally, because of the fact that, like, at this time, college football is going to be closer to being over, I would probably watch the college football games. Probably. I would. But I will definitely tune into the NFL game because I like to flip channels. I'll watch some of it. But that is a great question, though. I think you can go either way with it. I mean, because I like both college football and NFL, But I would probably watch the college football games just because that sport's going to be ending sooner than the NFL is by about a month. It's just the way I would approach it. But I definitely would tune into the NFL game. I don't know how Austin would answer that, but I do believe that because of what happened last year, tuning into the NFL game is worth it. But I would say if I had to watch one, I'd probably go with college football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's fair. And the NFL Christmas Day schedule, and that's another thing you got to juggle. Do you watch the NFL Christmas Day games on Netflix, or do you go with the NBA games? Because I mean, when you think of Christmas Day, you're thinking about NBA basketball. Now you're thinking about NBA basketball, NFL football on Netflix and chill.
I think a lot of people, it depends if they have Netflix or if they're football fans. Like if you don't have Netflix, people watch NBA.
I mean, everyone has Netflix. I mean,
Not
most
everybody.
people do. Most people have Netflix and Amazon Prime. Now, Peacock's another story, but
Peacock is terrible. Like nobody's got that, man, unless they're like watching like the Lopez show or whatever.
Oh,
I can't even log into my freaking dad's Peacock account, but I watch soccer when I'm home on Peacock.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll probably be flipping between BYU, SMU on the TV, and I'll be like keeping an eye on the Packers Eagles on Peacock app on my iPad. I'll just be like making sure I do that. Just be like, oh, let's go Packers, let's go Packers. Come on, SMU, come on, SMU.
Yeah, the multitasking in sports, man, is crazy. But they're making it harder to do that with all these streaming platforms, man. I mean, cable got too expensive. People cut the cord, got the streaming services, and now all these games and these shows are going over multiple streaming platforms where it's almost making it more expensive to have all these streaming platforms to watch all these games than it would have been just to have cable back in the past. So it's like you're still getting screwed anyway, financially.
Well, in Netflix, it's basically a 3-year deal with the NFL. So we're going to be seeing. So from what I'm seeing from this report from Ari Marov, Netflix has finalized a deal to acquire exclusive rights to stream both games on Christmas Day this upcoming season per Bloomberg. Netflix is expected to purchase the package for less than $150 million per game. And this is basically a 3-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody wants a piece of the pie, man.
I mean, I'm thinking this. It'll probably be Chiefs, but I think Ravens, Texans, since it's in Houston, will be close.
Yeah, that's like 50-50. That's a coin flip. Maybe slightly lean Ravens, but the Texans, depending on how good they're playing this upcoming year, they could easily win at home. I would go Chiefs as well. Like you said, Will, I know Steelers at home is tough, and they usually play up to their competition, but I think the Chiefs should get it done more than likely. But, yeah, Ravens-Texans, that is a really good game. And then you got the international game. These are the last, primetime games, and I guess we'll wrap up. But we got the Packers and the Eagles in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Sao Paulo.
So, what we got here?
Packers should win.
You think the Packers will win? All right. What do you think, Jackson?
I'm going to go Eagles for right now. But anything can change between now and the first week of September.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles usually do play better in the beginning of the season, like I mentioned earlier. So it's possible. I would maybe lean them, but my mind could change. When I make my predictions, for week one, I could end up picking the Packers. Who knows? Then you got Jets at Vikings in London, England.
Hello, Governor.
Another
this
Jets
one's a
game.
coin. This one could go either way. Another Jets game.
If Rodgers is healthy, I would lean Jets. If he's not, I'd lean
Jets.
Vikings probably.
Since it's early, I'll lean Jets.
Mm-hmm. Jaguars at Bears in London, England. I would, maybe Jags, maybe
slight lean Jags.
Yeah, I mean the Jaguars do have more experience playing overseas because they've had the most games overseas or whatever. of like any NFL team. I think the Jaguars have had more games overseas. If I'm correct on that, if I'm not, you can correct me, Jackson, if you know. But I think the Jaguars have had like the most games in England or whatever last few years. So,
Oh yeah,
I think
that's
that would help them.
oh yeah. Patriots. I'm like, good grief. They must really not want anybody watching the Patriots.
Yeah, then we got week 7, Patriots at Jaguars in London, England. So back-to-back games in England for the Jaguars. So my point is stands true. I think it's because there's a lot of Jaguars fans over there, I think. That's why they
True.
Also, Jacksonville's a small market.
Yeah. I would lean Jaguars for sure on that one. Patriots, we don't know how good they're going to be.
Yeah, Patriots. They said that. Yeah, they said that Drake May's like not as developed as they thought he was when they drafted him. That's what I heard out of the Patriots camp. So that's not good for the Patriots.
Oh boy. Yeah, hopefully Drake May's good. I mean, he played for North Carolina Tar Heels, so I hope he does well. But yeah, a lot of people have soured on Drake May.
I don't think anybody's getting up at 8 a.m. to see Patriots get whipped. I mean, anybody that's like not a Patriots Jaguars fan, some people are just going to be like, yeah, I'm going back to bed. 35-0 Jaguars. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, I'm going back to bed for sure. And then our last game, we got week 10. The New York Giants at the Carolina Panthers, baby. The Carolina Panthers get their spotlight game in Munich, Germany. Can they win? Can they win in a big game, right? Like, they get their own time slot, international game. Giants aren't great. Can the Panthers, can they get a win here, you think?
Man, the NFL hates Germany, man. They hate, I don't know, is it because of World War II or what?
They gave them a bad game. At least they got a game. At least they got a game.
Oh, Giants and Panthers. It's like, oh, man.
I mean, I have to see more growth from Carolina before I pick them. I mean, for now, I would have to lean Giants. But
how could
maybe Carolina will be better.
How could the NFL be so mean to Bryce Young? He didn't do anything to anybody. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. I just hope Bryce Young can figure it out. I mean, I don't have high hopes with that O-line and, you know, and just like Tepper, the worst owner ever right now in the NFL now that Dan Snyder's out of the picture. Like, man, it's just ugly. Yeah. I don't have high hopes, but the Panthers have made some off-season acquisitions. Some that the wide receiver room should be better. The O-line might be a little better. Maybe Bryce Young's a little better. I'm not confident though. I mean, they still can. They'll still probably suck, but maybe they'll win 4 or 5 games, and maybe this will be one of them. I don't know.
Well, the only way to go is up, especially in Carolina. That is if David Tepper doesn't give away any more first-round picks.
Yeah, don't do that, David Tepper. Listen to the fans here. Listen to the fans. Don't do it. I'm just hoping that they're better. I'm not expecting much from Carolina, but hopefully they're just a slightly more watchable than last season. That's about all I ask and expect this season. But it's going to be really interesting. I can't wait for the NFL. I can't believe we're already like only 3 months away. I mean, we're getting close. The NBA is getting close to wrapping up. It's wild that how fast it seems the year is moving. But you guys have any final thoughts? We went through all like the special games. It'd be tough to go through every team schedule and all that, but we went through all the special games. Do you guys have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just hoping the Commanders are at least close to a playoff spot this year. But I believe it's possible.
The Jets have too many primetime games.
Yes, way too many. You can even say maybe the Bills do. I know the Bills have a better case than the Jets because still Josh Allen, he holds a little bit of that, but still a lot of prime time for that team as well, the Bills.
But I also hate it that NBC and ESPN are just torturing the NFC South. I hate that they're doing that. What are they doing?
Hey, at least they didn't put Carolina against a really good team on prime time. That'd have been even worse. I mean, maybe the Saints can hold their own, even though I doubt it. But it's going to be really interesting. I just hope Carolina wins 4 or 5 games at least, slightly more competitive. For Austin's sake, even though he hasn't returned, hopefully the Dallas Cowboys will finally make a run this year, even though no one's expecting it. And can anybody knock off those Chiefs? Can anybody knock off the defending champs? It's going to be interesting to prevent that Chiefs dynasty from reaching Tom Brady levels, but can't wait to see what happens. Thanks, everybody, for being here tonight, whether you watched on Only Talk Sports or Sports Talk with Austin. I do appreciate you as well both of you guys, Will and Jackson, for coming on and made the show a lot of fun as well, getting your takes and opinions as well. It was nice to have everybody back together talking some sports for once, but it was a lot of fun. And thanks everybody for being here. Like, subscribe, and comment down below. Really appreciate it. And I'll be back in Austin, and I'm sure Will and Jackson will be back to talk some more sports in the future as the NFL season gets closer around. Still got the NBA going on as well. Thanks for being here, everybody.